It's the lead play in our offense.
Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man who is inside. Fullback, we tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. He goes right by them and fields inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here and try to run this play in the alley.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can text the show at 865-658-5824. We are live on YouTube and Twitter here on a Friday night, little Friday Night Lights edition of the show. We got Jacob from the Packernet Fantasy Podcast. Jacob, how was your day, brother?
Man, crazy day at work. Had a wedding catering for like 250 people. Then western Wisconsin has had a lot of really weird storms the last like 2 weeks. So we got crushed by another one just a couple minutes before we actually started. Now it's like sunshine, bright. It's weird.
Hey, it's been hot up there too, hasn't it?
Yes, dude. My air conditioning is not working very well. If you guys always see me, I'm wiping the sweat off my face. It's ridiculous. It's awesome.
Yeah. If everything goes as planned, we're going to have Mike Wall on the show here tomorrow morning. We're going to be breaking down some offensive line tape, and he's out in San Diego, and he's going to hop on early for a little early morning edition. And just hearing the weather out there is making me furious. It sounds like there's little to no humidity. Absolutely gorgeous. He's about a block from the ocean, little ocean breeze blowing in. So I'm jealous as all get out. But yeah, when I heard you guys were up near 100 degrees, I was like, okay, maybe it ain't so bad down here. But what we're going to do tonight, guys, I appreciate everybody hopping on. We're just going to kind of talk about the first week of camp, right? We're going to kind of break that down. We got a little bit of news that broke not too long ago. I think Jacob's going to be very upset about.
Oh, I already know.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Then we'll kind of lay out the schedule for the rest of the camp and all that good stuff. But I thought there'd be no better way to kind of kick this whole segment off, just kind of recapping camp, if you will, for the first two practices, than having Ryan on. If you guys aren't, I'm sure you are, I shouldn't even say it, but for those of you on YouTube, if you don't know about the Packernet Podcast, everywhere you get your podcast, just search Packernet Podcast. It's where you can find this podcast as well. It'll be attached to that same label. But he's been doing camp updates, and he's just been following anyone who's anyone really at camp. You know, people like Andy Herman, Paul Brettel, on and on and on. And when people give camp updates, he does a podcast where he just breaks it down kind of. I don't know how you feel, Jacob, but when Ryan breaks the camp updates down, it's just – bang, 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 straight to the point. You can listen to those podcasts and get every single detail you need from camp practice. It's been great. So let's do this, man. He's actually on the line, looks like. I'm going to go to Ryan here. We'll check the audio. We got Mr. Pack Daddy himself, Ryan Schlipp from the Packernet Podcast. Ryan, can you hear us, brother?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, man. Yeah. Absolutely. It's kind of creepy with no video, isn't it? It's just,
I figured there was like an ambiance to it, you know, like I'm calling on the road. I got this thing that I'm doing or something. I'm heading out to the stadium to talk to Jordan Love.
Exactly. We'll roll with it. All right, dude. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. You're raising 45 children. Like you said, you're probably dropping
42.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to kind of get your update on camp, man. I've been listening to the podcast, but for those here on YouTube that maybe haven't caught it, you know, we're 2 practices in. I guess it's just been 2 practices. Is that right?
2.5.
2.5, 2 3/4. Got it. Yeah. What I want to do is just kind of get your take, man, and really just break it down into 3 questions. First things first, offense. What's kind of stood out to you on offense, man? How do you think the offense is performing? Any news and notes that just first thing comes to mind for you, bro?
Well, I think the best thing is the jump from day 1 to day 2. Day 1 was just seemingly like a disaster. Day 2, I was a little surprised that it was apparently very obvious that they lost the day. I thought it would have been a little bit closer in day 2. Not just Jordan Love, but Christian Watson got off to a slow start day 1, and day 2 it looked like it got a lot better. A couple guys did take a step back. I think Musgrave and Malik Heath in particular kind of had a rough day too. But no, I mean, it's it's kind of what you would expect. The defense has got a lot of guys, but also a lot of experience. They're ready to roll. The offense, this is what we've been saying for a long time. It's going to take a while for them to get acclimated, and that's kind of what we're seeing. But seeing such a big jump in one day gives me hope that hopefully by sometime, maybe next week, we got the offense making the defense do push-ups.
I was just about to mention that, man. I'll tell you what, offense is cutting weight like crazy. If you guys haven't heard, whoever wins they've got, I guess specific segments of the practice. And, whichever one wins, whether it's offense or defense, the other side has to do some kind of calisthenics, right? The first thing I always think of, Ryan, I'm sure you've seen it, Jacob, I'm sure, the movie Major League. Remember when they were making them do some extra work and Roger Dorn got mad, brung his contract in? I imagine if Aaron was still in camp, he would walk over there with his contract saying, I'm not required to do any extra calisthenics, right? But, yeah, dude, that's basically the other thing, too, that really got my attention was they said Devondre Campbell was, like, coaching them on doing their push-ups. Like, so he's, like, standing over them.
Yeah.
But, man, there's some people that are going, oh, that's stupid or that's so high schoolish, on and on and on, right? But you know what? You're going to get tired of losing. And to me, that's what this young offense needs, man, is a kick in the rear end. And I think they would agree. You don't hear them complaining about it, right? Which is cool. I think it's a good move by LaFleur to kind of shake things up and say, hey, look, this is going to be a different camp this year. The whole fun-loving hippie days of, hey, look, let's all relax are over. It's time to get to work. I'm excited about it. All right, defense, man. Obviously they're shining again this year like they did last year. Everybody's immediately trying to go, hey, look, listen, guys. We heard this last year, right? Everybody was saying this was going to be a top 5, top 10 defense, and we know it didn't really shake out like that, although they did finish strong there toward the end of the year. What stood out to you on defense so far, Ryan?
Well, I just like that everything so far has been pretty positive. I mean, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Colby Wooden in particular along the defensive line have already been flashing. All the linebackers, occasionally a pass will get caught on one of the linebackers, but these guys have just been phenomenal through camp. Jair is just a force to be reckoned with. I don't think he's given up a single pass. One of the things that I didn't know, that interception that Jordan threw, it made it sound like it was just kind of tipped to the line, maybe an ill-advised throw in traffic, and just, really what it was is he was hitting Christian on a comeback. It hit him in the chest, but Jair wrapped around, looked like he punched the ball. So, I mean, that was not the impression I got from what I was hearing, but, I mean, it was just a phenomenal play by Jair. So it really helped alleviate a little bit of that, dang it, man, there goes that first pick or whatever, because, even though maybe he shouldn't have thrown it, it really just wasn't as bad as I thought. But, no, I mean, the defense looks fired up. They're playing, I'm excited for the pads to come on because I feel like there's going to be some serious energy with this defense. They're already talking trash. You got Rasul Douglas, as childish as it might have been. He gave up that touchdown in super tight cover. I mean, that was the other one. Do you see the video of that? Or maybe that's the one you sent me. The touchdown with Rasul right there. Man, oh man, he was. I don't even know how he caught that. That was in such a tight window. Rasul was so mad he kicks over a garbage can. So,
so it was Rasul that kicked over the garbage can?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was Rasul that kicked the garbage can over and then just let some old man clean up all the garbage. But
that's what's funny, man. Is piecing that whole story together, because I seen the tweet originally with the garbage on the sidewalk or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, why would somebody tweet that out? It's so stupid. Then I heard on your podcast, you say somebody kicked the can over, and I'm going, it makes sense now. Yeah.
Yeah. He was so mad he gave up that touchdown. He walked over, kicked the garbage can over. No, but I think the defense is looking real good. And I think the biggest thing I'm excited about offense and defense is these guys that are kind of on the bubble and like who's going to end up winning those jobs or whatever. There's a lot of those positions. I'm like moving guys up and down. I'm just real excited to see how these materialize and how hard these guys are fighting. Every day I'm swapping who's in and who's out because, 1 minute this guy, Patrick Taylor, the next minute Tyler Goodson, like day 2, he was tearing it up. So that's been the most fun for me to track so far.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's a whole different energy around this team. We've said it over and over and over, and it's really, really cool. It's we really don't know what to expect, and that's what's so exciting about going into this year. And speaking of not knowing, what to expect. Well, first of all, let me say this. You mentioned, coming up on Monday. I believe they're going to put the pads on Monday. Is that right?
Yep.
That's exciting. That's when you're going to start to
That's gonna be
separate
fun.
the men from the boys there. And what I expect to see happen there are these guys who have that quote unquote game speed are going to start to pop. I really believe that. I think Musgrave will start to pop a little bit, just simply because we heard about that. That speed he was clocked at in pads on the field. I think that's going to start to shine a little bit. I'm hearing that Quay Walker, which shout out to Quay, Michael Lombardi had him as a red chip linebacker this year. So he progressed to the red chip. Last year, he had Devondre Campbell as a blue chip, but of course, with the injury, he tends to just fade those guys off the list. If the year before he didn't see on tape, hey, look, this is a blue chip player. It's not a knock against Devondre as much as it was, hey, we know he wasn't healthy. Even when he was on the field, he wasn't healthy. But I thought that was really cool. What Lombardi was saying, Ryan, was that when he went back and watched the tape, especially toward the end of the year, what he's seen with Quay, he really, really flashed on film. And it's what we seen when we watched the tape. Now, he missed some tackles, but we know he made a ton of tackles too. But you constantly kind of seen him in the right spot. You could see his athleticism get him to the right spot. It's just finishing those and being a little more technically sound. But, yeah, I'm excited to see this defense, especially with Devontae Wyatt. That's my pick this year, man. I'm going to watch him like a hawk. I think that dude is going to flash this year big time. What would you say, Ryan, before we let you go, man? What do you think is the biggest surprise so far? I know it's just 2.5 practices. I got it. But what comes to mind when I say what has surprised you so far? Has any one person just kind of went, okay, that was a pleasant surprise? Anything come to mind?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, there's one negative surprise that I don't want to talk about, but let's see if I can think of something else.
Hey, it can be negative. Let's do it.
The one thing that made me sick is after this little 3/4 practice that we got today, I officially did move Tucker Kraft below Tyler Davis on the depth chart. I didn't want to have to do it, but I have not heard Tucker Kraft's name one time in OTAs and training camp, nothing. And Tyler Davis is getting opportunities with the ones when Tucker Kraft is not. So it makes me sad, but maybe that's one of those things too, where you get the pads on, get a little bit of physicality going. Tucker Kraft is going to start to shine. I'm hoping. Yeah. I just want to hear I want to hear like one pass, one touchdown, once to just kind of get that spark, because I just have not really heard his name. Obviously, Jonathan Garvin, maybe not a shock, but him leaving that early was a little bit surprising. I thought that would be like a last minute down to the wire. We've got 55 guys left, and then he ends up getting gone. He's the second one after Jeff Cotton to get cut. So, and I seen that unfold, Ryan. Don't mean to cut you off, but the first thing that came to mind when they cut Jonathan Garvin, which I had it in the notes here to talk about. You guys know Garvin was a 7th round pick there a few years ago. He has been cut. I know Jacob is absolutely devastated by this cut, seeing that he had about 13% attendance rate for the off-season program this year. But the thing I kept noticing, though, was Brenton Cox Jr. in the drills going right alongside some of the starters. And I'm going, I don't know, man. That's the one I'm excited about. Yeah. Kind of seeing what he does. Have you heard his name at all, Ryan? I guess he's running with the 3s and 4s probably, right? Yeah, so far he is. I think the only note I saw on Brenton Cox is that he lost a rep to Tenuta. So that's all I got on Brenton Cox. But, again, the trenches in particular, too, when the pads come on, that's when it'll start to get more interesting. I think right now it's just a little they're just playing patty cake. So we'll see what happens when the pads go on. Yeah, absolutely, man. That's, like I said, that's when it gets good, man. We're going to have pads popping over it. Oh, my God, it's going to be awesome, dude. Absolutely. And this is what I was saying. Like, some people, they kind of approach us and go, well, I just want to see the pads come on. Then the pads come on. I just want to get the preseason. The preseason. Exactly. I just want to get the regular season. For me, it's like, what's next? What do we got next? This is exciting, I don't know. I guess I'm just a kid at heart when it comes to football, dude. I get so excited about this stuff. So anything else you want to share before we let you go, man? I really appreciate it. It was short notice, and you hopped on here just to kind of give us your initial thoughts on the first 2.5 days of practice. Jacob, if you have any questions, fire away. But Ryan, do you have anything else? No, man, I just, again, we only got 2 days, and there's a lot of things like moving around. Like I've got my little chart here, and just in these 2.5 days, we've had a lot of moving and mobility. So I think over the next week with releases, other cuts, and some other names popping up, this is going to be moving around a lot. Yeah.
I
Go
do
ahead,
have one comment, not necessarily a question, but it does show a little bit how ruthless the game of football can be. Not only did Garvin get released today is his birthday.
Yes,
And
No.
the Packers took
Yeah.
the time to actually say happy birthday about 15 minutes before they released him. So that's a thing.
What the hell is wrong with that social media team?
Dude,
Like,
either that
Somebody
or
should have
they're
tipped
like,
them off.
yeah. Or it's
God,
that they
what
really
the-
had a problem with Garvin or something like.
Brian Gutekunst, they were going to cut him a few days ago, and they're like, no. Let's wait for his freaking birthday.
God. Happy birthday, bro. Hit the unemployment line. God, it's horrible, dude. Horrible.
I really do honestly feel a little bad, but
Why you got to point that out, man? Hey, Ryan, get out of here, dude. Thank you for your time,
All
man. We
right, you
appreciate
guys
it.
take care.
See it. Unbelievable, man. I can't believe I didn't even catch that on his birthday.
yeah,
Happy birthday! Get out.
pack
Get
your
out of here.
bags.
God, I don't mean to laugh. He'll probably
No.
get picked up somewhere, and he's probably a practice
Yeah.
squad. You know, one of those guys that I could see him bringing back for practice squad. You know, potentially later on. But I don't know, man. I think it says something about Brenton Cox. To be honest with you, man,
That's what I was gonna say.
yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind for me, and I don't know. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but. So, like we said, Jonathan Garvin released on his birthday. God love him. You got the first padded practice coming up on Monday. Now, I did want to say this, with Ryan. Hopefully he'll hop on with us if he's still listening. The plan is to have. Oh man, I had something I wanted to share here too that we'll still share it here in a second. Hopefully he'll jump on with us Sunday for the weekly recap because we will be having a practice on Saturday. Ain't that right, Jacob? Yeah.
And I believe
More
it's open to media and public, right?
Nice, good stuff. So we'll get a bunch more Big B and his bootleg videos over there. I think because he's underage, they're letting it slide. But I'm telling you, that boy, he's been letting them fly, man. For those of you who don't know, it's supposed to be. I don't even want to say it. I don't want to put any extra attention on it. But we got Jake Shavink in the house. Let's see what he says.
Is he doing that?
All right.
Is he doing that? Jake.
So Jake Shavink said, Brenton Cox staying straight would be real nice for them. So I guess
That's what she said.
so anyway, yeah, that would be great if we could keep him out of the clink. You know, that would that would bode well. But I don't know, man. I want to see him in preseason. That's what I was saying about preseason games. I really enjoy Jacob. Is just seeing some of those lower level guys get out there and get an opportunity. It's that's going to be a lot of fun for sure. This is what I was going to share with Ryan on here. I'm going to go ahead and do it right here. He tweeted this out. God, I wish I had done. I wanted to get his laughing reaction. He shared this. Can you see this?
I can see it. Yeah.
So for those of you on the pod, they got these little, I don't even know what you call this, a chart, a graph or whatever, where you can kind of rate the players, right? You kind of rank them. People can customize it themselves. And he did the quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks across the NFL. And the top column is MVP. Second one is Pro Bowl, third above average, then average, below average, and then trash. In the MVP column or section, I should say, we got Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes, and then we'll just like a Pro Bowl. You got your Josh Allen, your Jalen Hurts, your Joe Burrow, then above average Aaron, and a couple a bunch of others. Then all the way at the bottom, trash is Justin Fields, the only one in that column, all by himself. And I'm telling you, if you go follow that tweet, Lord have mercy, it got ugly in there quick, ugly, Jacob. The Bears fans came flying in. Then, of course, the people that are the quote-unquote Packer fans who are rooting against Jordan Love, they came flying. I can't believe you got it. It's like, bro, you really don't think he's saying he's going to be MVP, right? Like, calm down. Everybody calm down. Calm down. All right. Jake in the chat says, this is excellent use of tier maker for engagement. There you go. That's exactly what's going on. Right?
And clicked.
Pack Daddy like this right here. I'm telling you. When they zig, he zags. That's the way it works. All right, Jacob. Day one of camp, man. I love following Andy Herman, and you hear Ryan reference him probably more than anyone when it comes to camp updates. Day one of camp, he said his players of the day, I guess is how he worded it. Jair Alexander, Kenny Clark, and Devondre Campbell. I'm going to tell you right now, man, I expected out of Jair, really out of all three. But hearing that Kenny Clark and Devondre Campbell are on top of their game, right in the center of that defense, gets me really, really excited What do you think about, kind of Andy Herman's day one tweets, updates? What stood out to you? Same questions I asked to Ryan, man. What kind of flashed to you? Could be offense, defense, special teams, anything.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one we have to talk about is Jordan Love not necessarily being on his game, quote unquote. There was talk about a lot of wind, but LaFleur kind of seemed to poo-poo that in a way that was, I wouldn't say negative, but maybe just like, I'm not giving this guy an excuse kind of thing. And I thought that was a good move to just kind of get out there and say, I expect more. And from the sounds of it, it definitely got a lot better in the day two. But as far as the day one stuff, we had maybe some talks about some drops, which you don't want to hear about it. But again, it's day one. So there was some Watson stuff, some Musgrave stuff, I believe. I think the defense definitely showed out, like you said, they were doing. I think it was push-ups one time and up-downs the other time where they lost the quote-unquote battles. So, I don't want to read too much into it. We have to cover it, obviously the good and the bad. But like you said, it's great to see Jair doing what Jair does. It's good to see the defense really having that confidence. And it's a weird mental game if going into this offseason, like we talked about, everything's different this year. So many things. And obviously the biggest one is not having Aaron Rodgers there. Aaron Rodgers was the lead alpha dog. His mentality, his demeanor, his personality kind of led, I would argue, the whole pace of practices, OTAs, on-field, off-field interviews. I mean, everything was basically ran through him as the main guy. And I'm just wondering if now this whole team has taken a different identity from the defense to the offense to obviously Love himself to people like Jair feeling like, well, I'm the lead alpha now. You know what I mean? Or even Devondre or, like you said, Kenny. A lot of these guys, because I would say we obviously have a lot more, I wouldn't say talent, but experience and guys that are, first-round draft picks on that defensive side of the ball. They've got a lot to prove. And maybe they feel like, hey, we're now – I think of like a Ravens team, a Steelers team, where it's like the defense is more of the few times where a defense really is like the leaders. And I'm excited to see if maybe that's a new era of football in Green Bay. Imagine if we do have like a top 5, top 3 defense. Can you just imagine that?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it would be phenomenal. I was listening to a Darnell Savage, I don't think interview is the right word. They were in the locker room and Savage was talking about Joe Barry and it sounds like that defense has Joe Barry's back. And Savage even said, Coach Barry kind of came to them and was like, all right, how do you guys want to play this? How do you want to approach it? And Savage just came right out and said, it was like, we told him we want to be aggressive. We want to be up on the line. We want to be aggressive all the way across the ball. So they're really pushing Barry to turn them loose, and you got to understand the pros and cons to that, right? The whole purpose of this. And I've been studying the absolute hell out of this quarters, man match, match zone drop, everything all together. I've really, really been studying the crap out of it. I've been studying Nick Saban's cover 7. I've been studying Fangio's version of it, all of the different man principles that go within this cover 4 quarters defense. And even, the spinner aspect, everything. And, the whole thing that makes that defense go is you're not giving up the big play. And it's like everybody's pushing Barry to go, let's go aggressive, let's go aggressive, let's go aggressive. And they may do it. Just understand the pros and cons. They may do it and come out and have a top 5 defense. It may happen. But just understand when they get beat deep, that's the negative aspect of it, So I hope you see a little bit of a blend of it. And I think it's cool that Barry's giving them a little bit of say, man. I really do. I think it's awesome that he's kind of approaching it that way and letting them, have some say in how they're going to play it. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to switch to man coverage. That, like Dusty Evely said over and over and over, that's not a thing in the NFL now. It's just not. It's not just, okay, we're going to play man coverage now. It just does. The closest thing to it is Bill Belichick, and he still mixes end zone, right? And he likes to play that bullseye type defense. We got a caller on the line. We got Tim in Green Bay. Tim, you got us, bud?
Clayton, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We got you, man. Loud and clear. My Johnny Cash, bro. How you been doing today?
Man, doing good, brother. I had to run and catch my Wi-Fi signal. I was out in the garage, and I saw the link pop in, so I made a scramble up the driveway and ran into the house. So I'm glad you can hear me.
No, absolutely, dude. Hey, you've been at camp, right? We've seen the pictures and stuff. You took a picture with Quay out there and had some great shots on the sideline as far as the legal still shots that you're allowed to shoot, right? kind of leads me to this. I guess everybody's talking about it. It's become a new joke on Twitter. I'm just going to mention it anyway. 2-0 for this in the chat says, has Big B been kicked out of camp yet? I hope not. We need the coverage. So what's it been like that, man, down there, man? Tell us kind of what the energy's been like on the sideline over at Ray Nitschke Field.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's a polar opposite energy that I felt last summer when I was up here. Like you had alluded to, you know, kind of this laid back, laissez-faire approach is definitely not what we're seeing there. I can tell you I heard a lot of F-bombs from the coaching staff. I heard a lot of F-bombs, and I mean, especially from Luke Buckus. That's all I'll say. He's a cool coach.
Surely not a Buckus out there cussing, right? Are you there, man? We may have lost him. We lost him. That was it. He didn't like my.
He said F-bombs and we got canceled.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Right there. Oh, here he is. There he is.
We're back.
I'm here.
All right.
There we go.
We heard you talk about Luke Buckus's F-bombs. That's when you cut out.
Oh, yeah. He wasn't the only coach, though, so I'm not going to throw him under the bus. But, you know, you got a young team, you're going to have some frustration. I've got a few shots of Joe Barry with his hands on his hips. You know, I'd like to spend a lot of time on the defensive side of the field. I've made my bias towards the defensive side of football known. So I gravitate over there. But, yeah, Clayton, to answer your question, man, the vibe is great in Green Bay. It really is. And you can see it. I mean, on the field and off the field, whether it's the players, the staff, the fans, there's just a different, I can't really put my finger on it. You know, it's, you know, one of the intangibles of the game that you can't really point it out, but you can feel it.
Got you. Let me ask you this, man. I know you had, we've been talking offline and you got some great bird's eye view of Lucas Van Ness, right? What was your initial takeaway? You know, when just watching him go through drills, like what's the first thing that kind of comes to mind when it comes to the rookie Van Ness?
The first thing that comes to my mind is coachability. He is extremely coachable, and I'm not an expert, but that's the read I got, because when I was watching Coach Montgomery working with them, he was he'd make a mistake or miss something, and it was like instantly corrected. And you could tell the way, just reading the body language and watching that helmet and watching what he's doing when he's taking direction from these coaches, you can tell that he's engaged and he's focused. It's not one of these rookie situations where, you know, he's not paying attention or he's not keeping up with the flow of practice. So he's locked in for a rookie. That's the first observation I had of Lucas Van Ness. And there's some technique things that need to be worked on. And that's a lot of what camp is for, right? I mean, we're not going to come out there and be perfect. You know, we got to make these mistakes now and correct them. And so that's my initial assessment of, the Luke Ness monster. I think he's definitely going to make a splash in his rookie season, to say the least.
Pun intended, right?
Can I ask Tim a question quick?
Yeah, absolutely, Jay.
About Luke. So what I saw from just some of the clips that were out there, they have that weird long green football that they use as probably just a get off start motion. The dude off the ball, he seems like he sets almost like a track runner, and if you notice, he'll like barely touch the ground with like his right hand, I believe. And then he resets. And the second that ball, I mean, the guy is almost like he's off a starter block, like I said, during like a 4K or a 40 mile, or a 40, what am I trying to say? The dash, he looks like he's running out of a combine stance. And he seems to get off the ball just with crazy quick speed. I saw a couple of the other edges do the same exact jump off, and it was just way different. He looks like he is so quick and so parallel, and then just shoots that thing so fast. Did you ever see that by chance?
I did get a little glimpse of that when I was on that side of the field. I don't get the best view being outside the wire, so to speak, but I do my best to get my camera in there into the defense links and try and get some shots. But I did see what you're saying and what you're referencing. I guess what I could say is it's almost like he's like not set. It's like he's trying
Yeah.
to push that rule as far as you can. It's almost like Bakhtiari does, on the offensive
Yes.
side, where he's just like, you're like, oh, he false started. It's like, no, watch the tape. He's that good. He's that quick off the ball. And I think, on the defensive side, coming off that edge, like you said, I think that is Van Ness. And I think if you look at the college tape, I mean, he was doing that, last season, and there were things that, we see there that we're seeing now. And I think the coaches are just like honing those in, and they're looking at cleaning up these other issues. I wouldn't even call them issues. I mean, to me, it looks like typical rookie adjustment, man. This is like, like you guys alluded to before, we're barely getting our feet wet here into camp. There's a lot of practice left and a lot of more drills and things that we're going to see. But yeah, Jacob, I did get to see a little bit of that, and impressed is an understatement for sure.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. I one of my favorite podcasts is Ross Tucker Football Podcast, and more specifically, we have Greg Cosell on. You guys know Greg Cosell's worked at NFL film since the 1970s, right? And one of the things that he asked Ross, or they were actually talking about prospects way back, before the draft, and not specifically with Lucas Van Ness, but just talking about players having that quick twitch, right, getting off on the line of scrimmage. And he said, Ross, let me ask you, you played offensive line for, I think he said 6 different teams, whatever it was. He listed out Ross's stats. You guys don't know, Ross Tucker was an offensive lineman, right, in the NFL. He said, how important is it to have that first step, right, that quickness, that first step? And Ross said, Greg, it's everything. He said, a player can have little to no skill, but if they have that first step, they can play in this league. A player can have every other skill set, but if they don't have that first step, they're owned. We never worry when we watch tape, when we got prepared for another team, prepared for another defensive line, off-ball backers, whatever it was. He said, we watched that first step, and we knew, got to watch that guy. Don't worry about him. He's slow. Like, it's everything. So when you talk about that 40-yard dash, people will hear the 40-yard dash, and I don't put as much stock into it as most people. But when people hear about offensive linemen run 40-yard dashes and edge defenders, it's like, well, you don't need them to run 40 yards. They're 5 yards from the player they're going to block. They're 2 yards from the player they're going to block. They're 5 yards from the quarterback they're trying to get to. What does it matter with the 40-yard dash? The reason the 40-yard dash is so important is because it really gives you a good gauge. And if Jake's in the chat, I'm sure he can confirm, who watches a ton of tape and does some scouting himself. It determines. It kind of tells the tale of how quick are someone's feet. How quickly can you get the next step on the ground planted and move into the next step? And that is crucial for offensive linemen. That's crucial for edge defenders. It's absolutely huge. And, of course, we know Van Ness absolutely shredded the 40-yard dash and every other measurable. I mean, what was his RAS? It was in the 9s, right? Right, Jacob? Am I thinking right?
High 9s, yeah. He was a high 9 guy, I believe.
And Ryan I think Ryan pointed out on one of his podcasts, I wish I knew the exact statistic, but he said that there's only one player that had a combination of 2 of those measurables, right? And in the history of the game, in the history of the combine, only 2 players, I believe he said, had those 2 measurables that stacked that high. And I can't remember what the exact measurables were, whether it was a 40-yard dash and a vertical or whatever, but the other one was Nick Bosa. So it was Nick Bosa and Lucas Van Ness. And that's like, okay, when you start getting into that rare of air, right, with specific things like that, you got to step back and go, okay, this might be a little bit different beast. Now, listening to everybody's camp updates, it sounds like he's running with the 2s and 3s, right? So it's like, why isn't he running with the 1s? I think that's a good thing. Give him some of that humble pie. You know what I mean? Make him work himself all the way up. As a first-round pick, sometimes you come in with that attitude like, okay, I've already earned it. No, make him earn it. And it's so cool because what you're saying, Tim, it seems like he's coachable. Everything we heard coming into the draft and out on the other side of the draft was his teammates loved him. His coaches loved him. He's the hardest working guy in the locker room. For God's sakes, he's called Hercules for a reason, right? I think it's all melding together. I wouldn't be surprised if by the 2nd or 3rd week of camp, right before we get ready for that bye week before week 1 of the regular season, all of a sudden he propels all the way to the top, and he might be that opposite edge rusher, opposite Preston Smith. And it's a good problem to have if he's battling with Hollins and Enagbare there on the edge, right? So anything else stand out to you, Tim, as far as from camp, man? Anything? I heard Andy Herman talking about his camp day one players, players of the day, I think is how he worded it. Jair Alexander, Kenny Clark, Devondre Campbell. I know Jordan struggled day one, but it sounds like day two he came back, bounced back really, really nice. Did you get a look at Jordan at all?
I'm going to be honest. No, I've been consuming the content that is in the Twitterverse because, like I said, I've been so focused on this D line and these edge guys. I didn't even watch safety group as much as I wanted to. I didn't get to see much of the secondary and safeties other than the drills. But as far as standouts to me, Quay Walker's my guy. Right. And, I had my eye on him, and just watching, especially day one, was he had a presence about him out there, all business. And I think, I had speculated on this maybe a month ago. I think he's matured in this offseason, and I think he's taking a slightly different approach to his game and to how he practices and how he works out and where his focus is at, because, man, him and Devondre Campbell were winning every single one of those strip drills on the tackling dummies. And, to be standing 10, 15 feet away watching it is just incredible. And so Quay kind of stood out to me. He looked more poised. He looked more confident. He looked, ready to roll. So that was definitely a standout. And, of course, for Rashawn Gary, I don't know if you saw I got a little clip. I was hanging out with Matt Ramage for a little bit. Shout out to Matt Ramage. I didn't want to bogart too many of his good shots of his buddy Rashawn. But I did get a video of him doing some work, and the difference between day one and day two is just night and day, man, with him. Like, they are not it doesn't seem that they're handling his rehab with kid gloves at all. I'll tell you that. So that stood out to me too, that do not doubt that Bane Gary will be back week one. I mean, if anybody can do it, man, this is a huge matchup, man. This is, week one in Chicago, Packers, Bears, man. This man wants to play. Yeah. And so just to see that was really cool too. So that stood out as well.
God, it's awesome, dude. If he's running out of that tunnel week one, man, I am going to be. I want him harassing the absolute hell out of Justin Fields. That's what I want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff, brother. Well, Tim, we can't thank you enough for calling in, man. This has been awesome, dude. It's so cool having boots on the ground there. Appreciate all the messages you sent me and just the little inside, information that you're kind of getting there on the sideline, dude. It's so cool living in Green Bay now, isn't it, man?
Man, I tell you, I drove 2 hours to go to camp last summer, back and forth from Milwaukee, and to be like 10, 12 minutes away is just it's awesome. It's something that I'm getting used to, and I'm going to like getting used to it. So we gotta get you guys up here for camp, man. Got to get Jacob over here and get you up here one of these times, Clayton. Yeah,
man. I tell you, Mandy's been all over me about it. And several people reached out on Twitter. They're like, why aren't you up here, dude? And she literally I was telling Jacob, she was like, look, we can fly into Chicago. It's just a 3-hour drive. I'll get us a rental car. And I'm going, Mandy, stop. Like, chill. All right? This is like my busiest time of the year. But she knows, dude, it would be so easy to talk me into going to camp because I just want to come up there and experience it. I haven't been to training camp. I always like to go up in the dead of winter and watch the snow fall and just kind of take in that. Really, right before Christmas is when I like to go to Green Bay. But sure. I would love to make it up for camp, dude. Sitting around, hanging out with you guys and going to 1919 Kitchen and Tap and grabbing a cold one would be absolutely awesome. Anyway, all right, man, we appreciate you, brother. It always it means the world to us when you take time out of your day to hop on here, dude. Thank you so much.
It means the world to me for you sending the link and, letting me be a part of this. Love what you guys are doing. I'll always support, and I'll do my best to get some good shots tomorrow at practice and get as much intel as I can.
Nice.
See if I can slip a microphone underneath the fence or something,
No, don't do it. Don't do it. You're gonna be like Big B out there walking around with them fake mustaches, trying not to get kicked out.
I could have swore I saw Mark Murphy looking for him the other day.
Mark Murphy. They said he picked a switch, Jacob. He was walking around with a switch looking for Big B. Somebody needs to Photoshop that. That needs to happen. Cody, well, we're going to be going live again same time tomorrow night. I'm going to have Mike Wall on tomorrow morning if everything goes according to plan. We're going to be breaking down some O-line tape. And then tomorrow night, if you'd like to, if you're free, make sure you check with the missus. But when you see us go live at the same time, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, feel free to hop on, and we'd love to get your take from what will be tomorrow's camp.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it, Clayton. I will be ready to roll. And you guys have a great night. Jacob, take care, brother.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you, guys. Yep. Bye.
All right, that was Tim in Green Bay, boots on the ground for training camp. Dude is awesome, man. Love him. Day 2, Jacob, let's talk about it. You know, it's so cool too that like Tim went up there with a purpose. He went in there like with the game plan. I want to look at this defense, right? And it's so funny because the national media, everybody else, are all focused on Jordan Love, right? Tim's up there going, I know exactly what this season's going to come down to. If we get a strong defense, we're going to have a successful year. I'm going to go over there with Jerry Montgomery and get right on the fence. And I know that because let's just say I know that, okay? I'll just leave it at that. But he had some really, really good vantage points. And, I mean, to the point where he's almost standing right next to Jerry Montgomery while they're doing defensive line drills. So really cool stuff there. Always appreciate Tim in Green Bay. Now, they said day 2, Jacob, the standouts, according to Andy Herman, Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Isaiah McDuffie. Jaden Reed gets me fired up, dude. And I know you recently watched an interview between Steve Smith and Jaden Reed. Let's talk about Jaden Reed for a second, if that's cool with you, man. Maybe what was your takeaways from that interview, and then also anything that stood out to you when it comes to Jaden Reed in camp so far?
Yeah, man, it's a great interview. Like I said, today was kind of a very light walkthrough jog practice. There was very little coverage, maybe like some punting. One thing I will say real quick before we get into Jaden Reed, there was some real scare out there yesterday because apparently Jair went down at the end of day 2 with what we're looking like was a cramp situation. Just it's been hot, as like we talked about, all you know what out here. So the good news is that I was watching Boz's recap today. Boz decided that he didn't have a lot of video to show, but what he did show was that Jair and Shamar Jean-Charles were having dance-offs to the point where you're watching whatever these moves are, man. I don't know if you call it like the C-walk or I don't know, but Jair, he's not
they out
hurt.
there doing the honky tonk. They were out there doing the honky tonk stomp.
That's what it was. Yeah, it was a honky tonk stomp. Yeah. But watching that man, how much fun and the way that his body was moving, he's not hurt. He's not injured whatsoever. So that is a absolute bonus takeaway for that. But yeah, man, the Steve Smith interview, I believe it's called like Cut Up, or he's got his own podcast. And it's really honestly kind of insightful because he typically will interview wide receivers, and he has a really in-depth insight on what it is to be not just a decent receiver. Steve Smith might be one of my favorite NFL players of all time. I mean, the guy was just nails, man. And for his size to do what he did in the NFL and to command that type of respect. I mean, and he actually went into it with Jaden Reed, and he's one of them asked the other, said like, what is the mentality? I think Jaden Reed actually asked him like, what was the mentality that you had to have going into each game like that? And he said, what I thought I should back up. He asked, what is the biggest lie you tell yourself? Which is a crazy good interview question.
Yeah.
Because for a minute, Jaden Reed was like, oh, man. And it took him about 3 minutes of kind of contemplating around. And then all of a sudden it hit him. And he goes, I tell myself I'm a good blocker. And then they kind of both start laughing. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, all right, I am a good blocker, but it's only when I really want to be or when I try. Apparently, let's just get into it. So Jaden Reed, a lot of really great little nuggets in that interview. Specifically, he said he had a top 30 interview with the Bears where they really went in depth, started talking some stuff. Apparently, the Bears coach asked him, what's your best game that we can show that you're a blocker? And he just randomly apparently just said, I watched the Badger game. Apparently, the coach brought up the film and showed him, watched him the whole game and said, you didn't make one block this whole game. Why did you say that? And he was like, honestly, I don't know, man. I just panicked and told you something. And then he backed up and he was like, well, why did you tell me again that game? And he's like, man, I kind of freaked out, whatever. He was very honest and humble about it. Apparently he won the Bears over a little bit more in that interview where he thought like he had a chance to be drafted by them. He also admitted that he did not believe he was going to be been taken that high in the draft, that he was thinking he was more of a third, fourth round guy. But the only hope that he was told by his agents that he was going to get drafted so high was going to be at pick 55. If you guys remember, we picked him at pick 50, I believe. And pick 55 was the Detroit Lions. He's a Michigan guy. I didn't realize that he was actually born in Chicago. He spent the first 16 to 17 years of his life in proper, like, East, West Chicago, wherever it was. After around that time, his parents realized, like, we got to get this guy out of this place. So they took him to the suburbs. He then got his first shot to go to the college level at Western Michigan. At Western Michigan, he did his thing, worked his butt off, went into the transfer portal. He had to sit a year when he did the transfer portal, and then he played, I believe, 4 different years at Michigan State. While he was at Michigan State, the guy graduated with 2 bachelor degrees. He graduated in December of 2021, I believe, with a business communications degree. And then the next year, he graduated, went back to school, had that extra year of eligibility, and then he finished a degree in human development. So he's not a dummy. He's not just an athlete. The guy is a very, very well-skilled machine all around. And it was interesting because Steve Smith went in on a little bit because apparently they were supposed to have the interview at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and for whatever reason, Jaden didn't think that he was in Central Time for whatever reason, and ended up, not getting there. Long story short, Steve gave him a bunch of what, and but it made for a really good interview. It's about 40 minutes long. He talks about a lot of really interesting stuff. A lot of it's a little, stupid. They start the interview for about the first 5 to 10 minutes, and it's very generic, very whatever. But the only other thing, or I should say the biggest other thing that I took away from that interview, Jaden Reed told him that when he went to the combine, he had such a bad eye infection that the doctors told him, you probably don't want to go and, test right now because you can basically not see out of that eye. So he went anyways, literally said, like, I'm basically blind in one eye. So, I mean, imagine trying to go run the 40-yard, doing your vert, doing anything when you can't see out of one eye and trying to even pretend like that you're at 100%. I mean, it doesn't sound like something that's, it's not like you're missing an arm or a leg, but missing an eye. Go like this and then try to be an NFL player. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to work. So
good stuff, dude. Good stuff. I need to check that interview out. I caught a couple clips here and there. I like Steve Smith a lot. He's no BS for sure.
Yeah. He also said this is the only other thing. He did not expect to get drafted by Green Bay. He said that he had a total interaction with Green Bay of 2 Zoom calls. That was it.
Oh,
so that maybe lets you know, like, whatever Green Bay is doing in their back office, they must know. They must dive into a lot of different things than just, and the fact that also he didn't have that last year really, really excelled. They look back at 2021, 2022 at this earlier stuff, and then they probably had those 2 Zoom calls, and I'm guessing they probably saw this dude's mentality, his integrity, his humbleness, his work ethic, because that does come through a lot when you talk to this young man. He's very, very, he just seems like a good person.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Yeah. Jonathan in the chat says, are we live? I don't know, Jonathan. Are we?
Is that a shot at me, John? I didn't cuss this time.
Hey, that would be a good kind of a backhanded comment there. All right, we got Emilio in Tennessee. Emilio, can you hear us, buddy? How you doing?
I got you, fellas. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great, man.
Emilio.
Doing great, dude. We're just over here geeking out a little bit over Jaden Reed. He sounded like he flashed there in day 2 of camp. I don't know if you've seen it, but he had a jet sweep touchdown. Also had a touchdown catch. He was all over the place. You can really see his speed on the field for sure. What do you want to talk about tonight, Emilio? What's on your mind, bub?
Well, I was just thinking, I mean, I haven't had a chance to listen to that podcast you were talking about. I'm going to have to check that out. But for Jaden Reed and the team, I'm excited for where they're heading. When I was in, high school growing up and stuff like that, we called it stacking 24s. But every day is 24 hours and you stack those day after day. And I think that's what this team's building for, just grow together as one. And I'm excited. I know it's only 2 days, but, can't wait.
Yeah, it seems like they're gelling really, really well. I mean, like I was talking about, Devondre Campbell kind of coaching the offense along as they're doing their calisthenics for losing the offensive defensive battle for the day. It's I don't know, man. Everything that I've seen come out of camp, though, it's been high energy. It sounds like Coach LaFleur is a different man this year, right? He's kind of coming in with a different approach, which reminds me of when he first got hired. I always reference it. The thing that stood out to me first, because you've seen him, Coach LaFleur looks like this, this pretty boy. Hey, look, is he going to be hard nosed, whatever? And they said that first camp, one of the very first practices, Devontae Adams fumbled. He blew the whistle and screamed at the top of his lungs, "If you do not protect the football, you will not play for me." And that was Devontae Adams. He said it about he was getting the message across. Now we all know, one MVP, two MVPs later, it seemed like he kind of started to chill out a little bit and go along with the whole relaxed crowd. Now the gloves are off, it sounds like, man. I'm excited about it. I heard, I believe it might have been Jason Wilde talking about, it seems a little high schoolish making them do calisthenics for making mistakes and losing the offensive defensive battle. He said, but, that might be what they need because these guys aren't too far removed from high school when you think about it, right? Good stuff, man. Is there any player that's kind of stood out to you so far, man? Anything in camp before we let you go?
Just Devontae Wyatt, I would say. I mean, he moves so fast for how big he is. I wish I could move that fast. But it's going to be a good time, and I'm excited for where that defense will go, and it's just it's exciting for sure. But I do like that they're getting after each other because you kind of need that once you get playing and you're practicing. They're in the locker room with you, but you want to push them, you want to get after, and I'm glad that Matt's pushing that this year so that they can get each other better as they're growing. So big learning curve and good time.
No doubt about it, man. Devontae Wyatt's going to be huge this year, dude. If he comes out and has a solid year, this defense is going to be much better. Him eating up some of those reps that Dean Lowry and Jaron Reed had. And I don't think either of those guys played horrible. I really don't. But when you see Devontae Wyatt on the field, he flashes, man. His strength, his speed, everything. He's obviously more of a pass rusher than he is a run defender. But like we had talked about with this Joe Barry defense and the way that they're approaching it, Ryan has done an excellent job. I'm sure you guys have listened on his podcast. I think it was Packernet After Dark, just kind of, fielding calls about this defense and just talking about how we talked about this last offseason. Greg Cosell talked about it over and over and over, and nobody wanted to hear about it. And what he was saying was, Greg Cosell was saying it's blatantly obvious that NFL defenses are willing to give up the run now. They're literally saying, run on us. Go ahead. We'll give you that run. We'll give you that run. We're not giving you the big play. You're going to have to use every inch of the field. It's going to have to be a 10, 12, 13-play drive, and that's what it's going to take. And then when you get into the red zone, the field's going to shorten, and we're going to get a stop and hold you to 3. Like that's what the NFL defenses are doing right now. And I know it's frustrating when we see that they're giving up 6 yards a carry, right? And that's not part of the plan. Don't get me wrong. Joe Barry ain't going to the meeting going, guys, it's okay to give up 6 yards on first down, right? But you could tell that that's their approach. And like Ryan pointed out, you see them year in, year out. What are they drafting? What did they draft last year? They drafted Devontae Wyatt, excellent pass rusher on the interior. They drafted Quay Walker, which we all talked about, and we still think it might be a factor this year. Someone who can play stack backer, but also rush off the edge or mug that A and B gap like we seen last year. This year, what did they do? They went Lucas Van Ness, another edge rusher. Like, they're focusing on playing a quarters coverage, right? Kind of that preventive style defense and getting after the freaking quarterback, and we'll give you the run. Now, hopefully the run defense gets better this year, and I think it will. It will come into play with Devontae Wyatt, and he's going to be a big reason why it does or does not, get better for sure. Jacob, you got anything for Emilio before we let him go?
Man, I just was going to maybe comment on the fact, I'm not sure if you guys heard that the injury bug that we were kind of worried about right away, it doesn't sound like it was that bad. Like Caleb Jones, Moore, Carpenter, they're back, I believe, today or yesterday because it was just an illness. It wasn't like an actual hurt, type deal. But there was an incident apparently with Tay Wicks where he went across the middle, collided with Innis Gaines. It apparently didn't seem too crazy, but apparently he did end up having a concussion, so he is now in concussion protocol, apparently. That was Andy Herman reported on that. So, but when you look at the actual breakdown right now of who is not at camp because of injury, all we're looking at is Grant DeBose with a back issue, Wicks with the concussion protocol, Stokes, obviously, and then Gary. All in all being said, that's a pretty healthy team right now. So just thoughts on let's not jinx it. All right. Maybe we all tonight, whatever we got to do to take that away. But what do you think about us staying healthy so far and the key to staying healthy going in?
Yeah, I mean, you got to stay healthy. That's number one. I mean, I've torn my ACL, so it's not fun, but it's coming back from that and just staying, hydrated, stretching. It's all that little stuff that we did, beginning of practice, but it actually means something when, they're doing this day in and day out in the hot. I mean, out there today, it was 97 all day. I probably went through 2 gallons of water mowing, so it was a toasty one. So it's just, you got to do it. You got to take care of yourself. It's the only way to keep going to get through, 3, 4, 5 months of playing, putting your body through that.
Absolutely, man. The old saying, you can't make the club in the tub, right? You gotta be out there on the field if you want to make the ball club.
But hop in the tub after practice though, and stay healthy, and then get out before the next day starts.
Exactly. Milio, dude, it's always a blast talking to you, buddy. We appreciate you calling in.
Appreciate you, Clayton. Appreciate you, Jacob. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you, sir.
Take care, man. All right, that was Emilio in Tennessee. Good stuff, man. All right, Jacob, we're at the 55-minute mark. John in the chat says, hey, guys, thanks a lot for sharing your knowledge. Keep on keeping on. We appreciate you hanging out with us, John, for sure, man. It means the world to us. Anything else? This episode flew by, dude. My God.
That was fast. That went really fast. You know how hard it is for me to not scream Emilio every time we get him? The Mighty Duck Man. Emilio!
Love it.
The only other thing I wanted to quick touch on, if you got a couple more minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you looked at people really, like I said, even Ryan, which, I get Mr. Positivity himself, he said he wanted to see more out of Jordan Love day 2. And then a lot of people said, well, Jordan Love had a great day 2. When you look at his numbers, he was 5 for 13, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. So when you look at that stat line, you're like, well, how did he have such a better day? Well, Andy Herman has a great little breakdown where he talked about when he individually looks at the incompletions. He goes, I'm not mad at those incompletions. He was either leading a receiver in only a spot that receiver could catch it. It was one where maybe he rolled out and he just didn't have another read. There was no other place to go with the ball. He made a smart move because if we always think like he's got to be 5 out of 5 or else he stinks. Well, no, maybe he's 5 out of 10. And the way that he didn't throw the ball 5 times are a blessing. You know what I'm saying? Right. He said those 2 touchdowns were quite great. And then the 1 interception, I would argue it's just one of those freak plays like Ryan talked about where it was a tight ball right into Watson. And it wasn't initially what was thought was Watson kind of flopped it and kicked it right up into the air, which Devondre grabbed. No, it was Jair coming from behind, making a play on the ball, popping that thing out, and Devondre made a great play. So when you take a step back, re-look at those numbers, and I think that's a big – this year going into this, a lot of especially for the review guys, the guys that watch the film, we really need to listen to them, listen to their insights, because if like Love's first 3 or 4 games, if he has, gosh, I don't know, if he goes 17 for 40 or something crazy stupid like that, but what do those reps look like? What did he do? Did he go through his progressions? How was his footwork? How was his release? Was he making the right reads? Did he try to force things? Was he playing a good ball and that was just the best possible? Because no matter who you are, you're Tom Brady, you're Brett Favre, you're Aaron Rodgers. Some days are just going to be bad days and they're playing good defense. And it's whether or not you were able to make the key throws and the key times that maybe dictates whether or not you're a good quarterback, in my opinion. So,
yeah, absolutely. Dude, I'm so excited for Chalk Talk this year. We learned so much last year on how to do it. And this year it's going to be, I'm telling you, rapid fire, guys. I'm hoping the All 22 hits a little bit earlier this year so I don't have to wait later in the week, because I will just use the TV cut-ups if I have to. But the goal is going to be Tuesday. Immediately following, we have a game on Sunday. Then Tuesday's podcast, we're going to do Chalk Talk, the 5 key plays from that game, break it down, terminology, explain personnel, explain route concepts, explain blocking schemes. I'm going to try to get Mike Wall a little more involved in helping us understand, hey, what's the offensive line trying to do? That's what we're going to be doing tomorrow morning, Jacob. I'm going to have him on, and we're going to break down like 6 or 7 plays from the Detroit Lions game in Week 18 last year. Everybody, we all look at the PFF grades and we say, okay, well, the right side of the line has horrible run blocking grades, right? But how does that make sense with Aaron Jones averaging 5 yards a carry? We're going to explain how tomorrow, and it's going to be really, really good stuff. Mike's going to point out, it was the saturation I did. It was literally 6 plays. And I'm telling you right now, man, 5 of those 6, the offensive line play was horrendous. And I'm not going to say that to Mike. We haven't talked like, hey, this is going to be the message to everybody. I'm going to see if he comes away with the same thing when we watch the tape. I have a hard time believing he's going to go, no, that wasn't the offensive. He's probably going to go, these guys stunk. these guys, because it was bad, man. And there was enough blame to go around. Rodgers had happy feet in that game, held on the ball too long, all that. But yeah, let's just hope that right side of that line can get kind of shored up. And I think Zach Tom getting a full training camp at right tackle, which it sounds like he's in the lead, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's going to be huge to get those extra reps for him at right tackle. So, anything else you want to hit before we go, brother?
No, man. Like you said, we just got to stop playing musical chairs with our offensive linemen because let these guys just sit and play where they are. We're finally now with Bakhtiari as to hopefully where he's supposed to be. It was crazy to think that one man had us jumble everything so much just to try to make up for that one position. So if we have that rock, that stable there, I feel like the other guys that really, like you said, that you're even guys like Jenkins, keep him at left guard. Let's go. Let him sit there and really, really hone it in. Let's get Runyon trusting what he does. And then, at that right tackle position, man, it's either I have to think it's got to be Tom. So let him play. Let's let him get really used to that one position. Let's get him the reps.
Absolutely. And you got Yash as that swing tackle, someone who can come in and pinch and play right or left tackle. Hopefully Caleb's going to be on the roster as well. God forbid you have 2 injuries at that position. If you do at that point, it's almost like losing the quarterback. It's like, okay, you just do what you can do, right? That's just the luck of the draw. Jonathan in the chat says, I don't trust Steno. Man, hey, look, I can't sit here and say I trust him either, Jonathan. It's going to be something we're going to have to see this year, man, because the fact of the matter is the 4-time MVP is no longer here. If these guys come out and this offense performs and they plays, then kudos to LaFleur and kudos to Steno, right? And if they don't, then, like Ryan said, you evaluate the roster as the season goes on. God forbid you have the number 1 pick, but if you do, then, hey, look, that probably tells you that we don't have the right quarterback, and now you can go out and draft that quarterback. There's just so many ways this season can go, right? I'm not going to be surprised if they make the playoffs. I'm not going to be surprised if we win 5 games. That's what's the beautiful thing about this season. We don't know, and it's going to be a blast watching it unfold. It really is. So, all right, Jacob, let's get out of here, man. We're a little bit over on time. We never want to abuse the time here with the listeners, man. This one flew by, dude, and we knew it was going to happen, man. Camp gets cranked up preseason.
Can you imagine what it's going to be like in season, dude? It's going to go by in 2 seconds.
It's going to be insane. I was telling Ryan we might have to do a 2-hour post game show because it's going to be nuts. Yeah. Now, as far as the schedule, I want to pop this up real quick before we go. I'm just kind of looking at the training camp schedule. I noticed this earlier today, and it really got me excited as we put it on the screen. For those of you on the pod, basically they were off today. We got an open practice tomorrow at 10:30 on Saturday. We'll have Tim back on, like I said, tomorrow evening with us to give us kind of a camp update. He'll be in the house. Then starting next week, this is what you got, guys. You got open practice on Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, open practice on Thursday, off Friday, and then Saturday night we got Packers family night. I've been talking to Baz. We might have a way that people can, I don't want to say watch family night if you're out of, if you're like me down here in Tennessee, you're out of the region and can't get it. We're just going to get really creative and just stay tuned. I'm going to try to put a plug out there and get people pointed in the right direction. We might have us a little watch party or something that we can tune
Bass is good at that. He was able to kind of flirt
Play
around the lines last year.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So we'll kind of keep you guys in the loop with that, and then so it's basically, guys, we get through tomorrow, and then next Saturday's family night, which I kind of almost look like a game night. You know what I mean? Because everybody's in Lambeau. It's kind of the closest thing to a preseason. And then the following, I guess it's actually Friday. Following Friday is going to be Cincinnati Bengals, man. Preseason, it's here, dude. And Jacob, you better get ready, dude. We're doing post game shows for these preseason games, bro. It's happening.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited about it, man. All right, dude, we're going to get out of here. Appreciate your time, Jacob. I know you rushed home to make this happen. I appreciate it. We'll hook back up tomorrow, do it again, have Tim back on. And, then, of course, the plan is to work Ryan like a dog. We'll have him on Sunday night with us to do the kind of the weekly recap and get his take on that more recent practice that's coming up tomorrow morning. For those of you listening on Twitter, YouTube, and on the podcast, probably going to get it too late on the podcast. But for those of you listening live right now or watching it later on tonight, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, that would be 9 a.m. Central. It's 7 o'clock his time. We're having Mike Wall, who's out in San Diego, is scheduled to hop on. If he doesn't make it, I completely understand. That dude's out there living life, out there on the beach, and he said, hey, man, I'll hop on and break down some film with you. So hopefully he can make it. If that's the case, we'll see you guys at 10 a.m. in the morning. Have a little coffee and little coffee and offensive line talk with Mr. Mike Wall, former Green Bay Packer offensive line. So we're going to get out of here. Appreciate everybody's time. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Go Pack, go.
He's set for Heineke on 3rd down. 4-man rush. Heineke hit as he throws. It is ripped away by Devondre Campbell. And he's got plenty of green grass in front of him. Devondre Campbell, pick 6, Green Bay. Back to the pick.
Yeah, everybody's covered. There's J.D. McKissick. There's Devondre Campbell. Watch him play this. It's going to be a little in and out. You're going to press inside like you're crossing, bounce out, reads it well, eyes on the quarterback. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. Not just J.D. McKissick. Everybody was covered on that play. We talked about Taylor Heineke taking that next step with